Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine.
Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis.
Welcome to Film and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I am excited today because we are joining an award-winning producer here, actor, Andre Davis, an Emmy, oh my gosh, and fresh off of it. So, I mean, to say this is exciting, it's hard to put in words. It's a win for all of us. I mean, we feel the love, we feel all the work that you put into it. And this is exciting, outstanding daytime fiction program. We have to, though, go back before we jump into the excitement. We have to really sort of understand like who you are. I know you're from Memphis. Just tell me about growing up, some of your dreams, some of your passions, some of your inspirations.
All right, so of course, first off, I want to say thank you for having me, Doctor. I really appreciate it. My name is Andre Davis Jr. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. A lot of my inspirations basically just came from just, seeing people doing things that I didn't see other people doing where I'm from. And it inspired me to want something a lot more than what you can get where I'm from. It's hard to attain a lot of things where I'm from, and just coming to LA and being able to be here and being able to go for my goals, go for my dreams, and just hit it hard without stopping. It's just been amazing, and I'm very appreciative of it.
Sure. What were some of those first projects and things that you got into, still probably when you're back in Memphis, that kind of had you start to think, hey, maybe I've got something or a talent that I need to hone and to improve?
So back home, like of course in school, in grade school, middle school, high school, I was always into like theater and stuff like that. And I even did like small plays with friends. I remember, I think I still remember being like when I was like 20 years old, and I had like a friend, and he was so inspired by Tyler Perry. He was like, man, I want to do my own play. And he did it, he wrote it. And I remember him playing like 3 or 4 different roles all like at one time, like, in the play.
Right.
And, just doing stuff like that, it basically just that was my introduction into the entertainment world as far as acting.
Right, sure. For anybody to make a leap from being in any city to come to LA, it seems like such a scary, daunting, and complex process. It sounds so straightforward, but in reality, it may be much more complicated. What were some of those steps that kind of helped you make that transition and help you decide, okay, I've got to do it? And then how did you actually do it?
Some of the steps, for me, it was more of having a mindset that like, hey, I want this, this is where I want to be. And me, thinking to myself, what is it that I have to do so that I could, so that I can actually do it. But also, having those days where you actually look yourself in the mirror and, you have to ask yourself, is this what I really want? Because, there's a lot of, people can put a lot of, you get a lot of no's first before you get yeses. So that's one thing, that can be very discouraging, but you have to understand that you're going to get more no's than you're going to get yes. So, having tough skin, being able to take creative criticism, and just really doing what you want to do no matter what other people say or what other people may think. What helped me actually get to LA and actually be in the position that I'm in is that, coming from Memphis and me coming from, I come from a single parent home. My mom, shout out to her. She did her best. She did everything that she could do, and she did a great job. I actually, I had to make sure that I was the one that I was in charge of what it is that I wanted. I couldn't look at my parents. I couldn't look at anybody but myself. So for me, I was always a hard worker. I instilled that into myself. Always a hard worker, always doing what was necessary to get what it is that I wanted, and just working hard. So me being in Memphis, I can remember having like a job where I was bartending. I was bartending at this restaurant, you know, and I was working crazy, working hard. The job was like 45 minutes away from my house. So, you know, I was working from like 9 in the morning sometimes to like close. And like closing down the bar was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And just doing that and just working as hard as I could. And then I ended up, it's crazy. My story is crazy. I ended up getting fired from that job. I ended up getting fired after 5 years. And maybe 3 months later or a month or two later after I got fired, I got a call from AT&T because I was looking to get a job at AT&T. Just so happenly, they called me just out of the blue. I had a phone interview, and then we moved on to like an in-person interview. I started working in one of the stores. Fast forward 9 months later, I get promoted. I go to San Francisco. I'm thinking to myself at the time with the offer from San Francisco, I'm like, man, like, do I still really want to go to Cali? And I was like, you know what? I was like, why not? I'm like, you've been preparing for this for a long time. I'm like, and you can go be there for a year and then convince them to move you to LA, and then you can really bite down and go for what you want. And that's exactly what happened, you know? And, you know, then, you know, we get into COVID, we hit COVID just last year, and, you know, my team, they were amazing, and just being able to like pull an Emmy out of, you know, the pandemic, that's crazy. So, you know, it's been a journey, man.
Sure. Yeah, let's talk just a little bit about that, because maybe you've had some time to reflect on it. And it's helpful, I think, for our viewers and our listeners. Sometimes you talked about two things. No's can certainly be a road to a yes, and also that just because sometimes things go wrong, you had worked hard all those years that the company has slowly let you go, but you didn't take it so personally as to not continue to push yourself forward. And then finally you were willing to, you know, sort of go a little bit different. Like, okay, I went to a city that I wasn't really planning to go, but it was a lot closer than where I was at the time. So any thoughts that you have about just really being able to have a positive mindset, or the mindset to be able to take rejection, to take deflections, and even to take being fired, not as the end all be all, and still be able to persevere?
Man, it's, you know, I tell people all the time, it's just like, and like I was saying earlier, it's really about what you want. You know, it's really about what you want. It's about evaluating your life, looking at the people that's around you, looking at the things that you're doing. And, you know, like for me, I've always been very athletic. And so a thing that helps me out a lot to stay focused is, you know, I stay in the gym and I stay active. It really helps me so much, man. It helps a lot, you know, because it's like, hey, you're literally working on yourself. And when you get a chance to look in the mirror and you see something that you've been working on and you see yourself, this is like, you know, that thing that can trickle into every other thing that you do, you know? And so for me, it's just always having a mindset of whatever I'm gonna do my best at it. And I'm gonna be the best at it, or one of the best at it. And, you know, when certain things happen, I always look to like, well, you know what, hey, that door got closed, but another door has been open. So when I had that job and when I got fired, I was just like, man, I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, it's like almost the end of the world. Like, what am I gonna do? Because I had bills and I had stuff I had to take care of. And so, but when that door opened and I got that call from AT&T, when I got that job, I thought to myself, I was like, well, man, you've been telling your bar guests for the past 3 months that you want to go to work at AT&T because you want to do something different. Right. And it just happened, you know? So that was the positive side of looking at it. Like, you know, I always look at struggles and I look at hard times as forthcoming for something else great that's on its way, that's coming for you.
Sure. No, I think there's so many rich lessons to take from that, and to realize that our lives are constantly going to be up and down. There's not always going to be an upward ascent into greatness. But you were also mentioning, because we're going to transition to this team, I mean, I was floored when I learned that you had a position, you know, sort of as the EP, executive producer, and that there was a whole group, not just, you know, 2 or 3 people. How did you all come together to actually work together? Because so many times you say like, oh, you know, it's really hard. We have all these dreams of working together, but we just can't get along. How did you all kind of get through that, come together, and then start doing these projects?
Oh, well, first off, the first person I ever worked with was actually the writer and the director of the films, Dr. Louis Dion Jones. And I have to give it up to him because he was the one who put the team together. You know, he was like the quarterback, and he basically looked and he saw, you know, oh, this person is good at this and this person is good at that. And, you know, it was more so of just he bringing everybody together at the table and we just agreeing to start working. But some of the first projects that were ever worked on, it was really, for the most part, starting off, it was me and Lewis that started with the projects. And then we came together, he came together with Marquez Williams, the writer of the Emmy-winning short film, The Girl in Apartment 15. And, you know, for him, even for like Marquez, it was amazing for him, his first time writing something, and he won an Emmy. That was crazy, you know. But we all have to give it up for Dr. Louis Jones, because he's the one who put the team together, and he was the one who had the vision, and everybody just pretty much we took his lead, you know.
Right. And did you know him or introduced through a friend? Like, I mean, of all the people in LA that you
man, I met Louis back in like 2019, and it was crazy because it was just through Instagram, and he basically inboxed me and messaged me he's like, have you ever thought about doing film? Like, you know, because I was a model. You know, when I first arrived to LA, everybody just saw me like, oh, he's a model, you know? So everybody saw me, but, you know, of course that can trickle over into other things too. And so he was the one who reached out to me about acting. Right. And we started out doing, I started out acting. He had projects that he was working on that were like on Facebook. Like, he had a show called The Opinionated Show. And I would get out in the streets and actually go and interview people on certain topics for the show. And then that just led into us doing, we started first with Cycles. That was the first project that we ever did. And then the second project was NoHo. And from there, the list goes on. And then it was pretty much him just asking me about like, hey, like, let's think about getting you into being an executive producer of these films. And that's it, man. This has been history ever since then.
No, it's simply amazing. On that history, this is not a typical story. This is not a topic that's always addressed. And being a physician myself, that was one of the first things that really drew me in. Well, the second was, of course, that there was a physician really sort of helping, you know, craft and create and mold some of the process, even if maybe he didn't write the whole script. So talk to me about sort of picking that topic or these types of topics, and maybe some of the discussions you guys had even before everything was written out and set out to shoot.
Okay. All right. So first off, I think the number one thing is, you know, what happened, how we came up with, you know, the process of creating these particular films that we created, was that you wanna do stuff that people, you know, they can relate to. You get it? Because once you do things that people can relate to and they see it, then it's like, oh wow, like people don't feel alone. They're like, oh well, I can relate to this because I went through that. So that was the number one thing. And then but two was focusing on things that actually were going on in the Black community to help one another understand, you know, especially things like with the film Cycles. It was more about therapy and African Americans going to therapy. Like, you know, we don't always take mental health that seriously, but Cycles was that film that was introduced, and it was informative for people, showing them like, hey, you're Black, but you can go to therapy. It's okay. Like, we need therapy too. And then of course with Marquez's film, with The Girl in Apartment 15, domestic violence. We go through domestic violence too as well. And then the next thing, the other show was NoHo, and NoHo was just really about just showing people like, hey, you think that you can come to LA and then you think that like, oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake. It's gonna be so easy. Like, I look like this, I can do this, I can do that, and I'm gonna make it. And but yet there's all these other obstacles that you have to overcome in order to even get to doing what it is that you want to do, and even doing it on the level that you want to do it on.
Sure. Talk to us about some of just the collaborations and some of the things that sort of go on behind the scenes, just even in you all talking, even hanging out, and just in terms of the free flow or throwing out ideas, or sort of how the process sort of works, at least for your team, when you guys are coming up with what we're going to do, or something we might change, or how we really want to portray a certain picture or a certain scene.
Yeah, so again, the writer is the writer, Dr. Louis Dion Jones. Basically, you know, he will come up with the scripts, you know, and we'll pretty much, you know, he'll send it to everyone, or we'll come together and we'll have a meeting and we'll look at it and say, okay, well, and we all agree to say that, okay, cool, we can do something with this. Let's take this and try to run with it. And it's really just that simple, you know. He started writing in 2019, and he's always writing different scripts. So, you know, he might have 3 or 4 different scripts, and he'll shoot it out at us, and, you know, we'll all come together and we'll say, well, you know, well, we like this better, and we'll take that one, and that's what we'll go with.
No, nice. I love the democracy and the input and things like that. So here we're going along. I mean, I know we obviously are going to talk about the Emmy, but there were plenty of award recognitions before this. Even as that process was going on, were you even yourself going, I can't believe this is incredible, I wouldn't have expected us to pick up all these other nominations and awards that you picked up along the way?
Yeah, man, I can't lie, man. Just, man, you know, being from where I'm from, you know, the journey, you know, so far that I went through, like, I was shocked that we won, but it didn't hit me until after a while. Because when we won, I was like, wow, we won. And it didn't really just hit me until after I really sat back and reflected and just thought, like, man, like, dude, you just won an Emmy. Not only were there 7 Black men that won an Emmy together, not only, you know, me not even being in LA for 4 years and accomplishing something like this, it's crazy, you know. And then also what I said earlier about, like, being able to work and actually pull this out during a time in a pandemic, you know. It was crazy. I'm at right now, even as I'm talking about it right now, I'm still just like, man, like how, you know?
Yes, well, I mean, there's no question, like I opened with, we feel such a collective thank you, a collective congratulations, because we feel like it's a win for all of us as a community. Yes. A, we can work together. B, we do have stories to tell still on and on that have not been told. And C, which is kind of what you're hinting at, the biggest surprise about this, I think, for many people is, where is that? What major network was that on? Who was the executive producer? Right. Who was doing the budget? There was none of that. Oh, super name recognition. Oh, well, we're with so-and-so, and we've done the line, we're rolling with this studio, and we have a big budget and things like that. To what extent, and I know maybe it's gone over it again, but was it somewhat of a surprise to maybe some of your teammates that the Emmys were even as aware of the fact that the work that you all were doing and how important it was?
I think for, like, you know, of course, for the writer of the film that won the Emmy, like I said, it was his first time writing. It was his first script, you know, right. And that's crazy, you know. But the other thing too, the education as well, for people to know when you're going after these awards, you know, you do have to submit. You have to submit so they can see your work. So it's not about like, you know, them just like, oh, like we're just gonna look around and find something. Like, no, you actually have to submit your work to them so that they can see what you're doing.
Right. And then let's talk a little bit about it, because we know not everybody will have seen it, and obviously we'll run the promotional trailer, but just some of the storyline and how important it was to keep it real, poignant, and yet very, well, I'll even say visceral, because I know when I was watching it, I really could sort of feel, you know, the pain and the violence without it having to be so graphic that you really felt like, okay, this is too disturbing to watch. So let's just talk a little bit about the shooting of it and some of the elements that you all were trying to literally bring across, you know, in the story itself, beyond the obvious storyline.
Right. So for one thing that's it's a short film. So, you know, you only have so much money you can put into that, and with that you only get so many resources. So for us, it was just more about us, you know, sitting down and saying like, hey, how can we get the shots and make sure that we're like you said, sticking to the storyline, but really getting the message out there to people without it having to be so graphic. And that was just, you know, that was just us sitting down and just being tedious, because we had like at least like 2 different people who were like helping direct. And so, you know, just trying to make sure that we were getting the shots that we knew like people are gonna feel this when they see this. You know what I'm saying? More than just you having to do so much that you think you have to do so much to make people feel it, and for what's really going on in that film for it to resonate with people.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely, yeah. I think that comes across. And then let's talk too, certainly about some of the other projects that you have coming up and that you all are working on, because I know, like I said, it's a whole team effort, scripts, and you all haven't stopped for a moment.
So yes, so NoHo season 2 just came out. We just released that. Right now we're coming together and we're working on a new project, and it's called Intended Parents. And Intended Parents is it's a short film, but it's very educational for people. So basically, Intended Parents is gonna be a short film about a heterosexual male and a trans woman coming together. They're in a relationship and they're trying to have a baby. So that's a whole different world, you know, that we're basically, you know, we introducing it to people, and we're educating people on the community and with trans women, so that people understand, like they really understand the topic and the subject matter of when you have, you know, some people, when it comes to like trans women, some people think that they put it with sexuality, with sex. So like somebody might say like, oh, well, they think a trans woman is a transsexual, but no, that transsexual, that's completely different from transsexual, and a trans woman is they're different. And so we're just educating people on that, but also just educating people on that world and how it is and how people view it. And you know, it's so many, just like, I think there's so many different like misconceptions of things, and that's what people, they need to be educated on, and that's what we're doing with this film. And we're literally still in the process of like producing it and putting it all together, so I can't really give you everything right now, but I can just give you like the premise on it. So
sure, no, absolutely. I think also it's helpful for people to understand, maybe not all the details, but kind of what your day or typical week may be like in terms of having some of these meetings, these discussions, looking at scripts, trying to figure out shoots, because it's not, there's really no roadmap to being an executive producer. Right. So just tell us maybe just some of the elements that you may enjoy or maybe not even enjoy, but that may fill a typical week for you, or even a couple of weeks in the kind of role that you're in now, putting together these projects.
Okay, you know, typical week is not, you know, I won't be honest, is not like something that's like that's not like super stressful or strenuous or anything like that. It's just simply like, you know, if we get a script, you know, if Lewis writes a script and he sends it out to the team, like, you know, we go through and we look, and like I said, we might have a meeting. It just depends. Like Sometimes he might call a meeting and say, hey, like, let's get together and just look at scripts. You know, it's just random. You know, it's not like, I don't want to say like it's on a schedule or anything like that, but we know what our purpose is, and we know what we're doing. So a typical week like yesterday, all of the producers for this new film, we all got together. We said, hey, this is, you know, we know this is the film we're getting ready to start working on. Go through the script, see what's happening, what's going on, make any adjustments. Also, we have some SAG actors and actresses that are going to be in the film. So, you know, yesterday was, you know, having to call SAG, get information, and to see when we're going to be cleared to start filming, because you know how it is when you're working with SAG actors and actresses. You have to make sure that they have enough time in between shoot dates and things like that, and then us sitting down and making the schedule too yesterday on the film dates. Because basically, like, even when you're filming, you know, people they may not understand the process, but when you're filming and when you're going from location to location, every location, you're gonna film every scene that you have to film that's gonna take place at that location, no matter what episode it may be. You know what I'm saying? Like, the episodes might be spaced apart, but we're gonna film everything in that location that same day. Right. So I'm sorry about that. So yeah, a typical week, you know, we could get a script and we could come together and then we could sit down and we could say, hey, this is the one we're gonna do, and we start to throw our coins in. You know, we have to start going into our pockets and get that money together so that we can get these films produced too as well. So.
Sure, and I wanted to get to it, so that was a really nice, smooth transition, because I was going to say that I think the outside perception may be, boy, he's got money now, he's got the Emmy, rolling in dubs, film after film. I'm just kicking up my heels and looking at scripts and maybe, you know, doing this and doing that while I, you know, just enjoy directing this and ordering that and getting a few actors. Tell us just a little bit about sort of what you learned of that process of trying to get it financed, trying to stay within a budget, trying to raise money for films so that you can continue to do it, because it's not a cheap process and it's not something where you run to the bank every day cashing a gigantic check.
Right. So first off, I'm going to say everybody that's a part of the team, we all work hard. We work hard for our money. And the other thing that we do, because of course, you know, that money's coming out of our pockets first, but also another thing that we do, you know, sometimes we'll run like GoFundMe, and we'll let people know like, hey, we have a project and this is what we're like, you know, for the most part, like I said, we're trying to inform people. So we'll tell people what the project is about, and we'll just send it to all of our friends and, you know, friends and family. And if people want to pitch in and throw money in, they throw it in, you know, but ultimately at the end of the day, you know, we have to come together with that money, and we have to look at the budget on what we have so that we know like, hey, well, we can do this, we can do that, but we can't do this. So, you know, it's very strategic on that part when it really comes to the filming and the crew and everything like that. But we also have an amazing crew, you know, because sometimes people that are on the crew, you know, they'll volunteer and say, well, hey, I'll stay later and I'll work extra hours or whatever because of the vision of what we're doing. Because we understand that, like, yes, people may see us with these Emmys and we think that, oh, these people, they're rich, they're whatever, but you know, this is laying more of a foundation for us so that we can get to that, you know, to that kind of money, you know? So right now it's just about us working hard and about us asking the people who support us and love us and who love to see us happy and do what it is that we do and that we love. You know, those are the people and those are the things that come together to make this happen right here. So, yeah.
And that's one thing I want to make sure we get to before we wrap up is just sort of that feeling, the vote of confidence, the being able to, you know, hug your mom and say this one's for you type of thing. Talk to us just a little bit about the feelings after you've had a little bit of time to really absorb and things like that, in terms of how it really helps you to feel that, hey, I'm on the right path. I had this dream, I had this destiny, and now I'm here. And it's still a lot of work, but I've been supported.
Oh man, even when I think about it, like, you know, the feeling is so amazing because having this award and, you know, man, like, dude, like being in LA and having such a prestigious award is, right now I'm still kind of like lost for words, but it is an amazing feeling because it's like, it gives you that reassurance that nothing you did was wrong. None of the people that you met was a coincidence. None of the things that you've been through was a coincidence, but this is very, very reassuring that just because someone tells you no, it doesn't mean that you can't be great, I tell people all the time that, my first experience, coming to LA was to be a model and modeling. And I still can remember being in Memphis, in my hometown, and I'll never forget it. I'm gonna call the agency name out. It was this agency called Colors. I can remember going to Colors, knocking on their door and trying to speak with someone about representation. And they would not even come outside or even come to the door to have a conversation with me. And now I have an Emmy, and I'm an Emmy Award winning film producer. Like, it's like, wow. Like, yeah, you said no then, but I'm sure we can have a different conversation now. You know what I'm saying? So it just gives you that reassurance that anything that you want is possible. You can have it.
Right. Sure. No, I love the way you put that. And I think that's something that's so important, that if people continue to believe in themselves, their higher power, draw on that inner strength, that even though there will be roadblocks, they don't see the same vision. They get lots of people coming all the time. They can't even keep up with all the people they do represent. Whatever legit or other reasons that there may be for not taking clients on it. And all of us who've sort of tried to come into the business certainly experience that at some level. You're just going to get a lot of no's usually before you get the yeses. Much props, and we're just simply floored. But like I said, just for the community as a whole, one of the main reasons that we were attracted to this story, besides the fact that you're from Memphis, which I love Memphis and have family there and go there a lot, is that it really felt like, gosh, we can come up and we can work together, which I really thought was so amazing. Have a vision and get a collective work done. It hasn't been done before, so far as I know. And
Right.
For it to be a first, like you said, with first of so many things. First Seven Brothers, first time to pull this off during the pandemic, to first time script writer, screenwriter, and things of that nature. Just really means a lot that you come on and share with us and bask in some of the glow, but also still give that message of don't stop working, don't start believing that it's all over and you can just kick back. Just awesome. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. This is Filming Medicine. We love bringing stories to you that are not only the underdog achieving, but really also recognizing the excellence that we have in our community. That said, topics like domestic violence and certainly talking about a person that may be transgender or even transsexual are things that many times, just like mental health, were once considered too taboo to even discuss, nevertheless put on film. This win and this Emmy with this amazing team that involves Andre Davis and others who really came together and wanted to tell our stories, to me, really helps us realize that the day has come for us to really be comfortable, bring these topics out, recognizing that we have some issues and stereotypes amongst ourselves that we have to admit are ourselves. And we can talk about where they come from, but the truth is that we have to also root them out, because there are people that are hurting, there are people that feel ostracized, and there's some women certainly that are being abused. So if you see these types of things happening in your community, and you see the community shunning them, or somebody that you sense is really hurting and needs to have that extra talk or that extra bit of help that you may be able to afford, give them that hug, give them that love. And if you know the organizations to get them to, and we'll put the number at the bottom of the screen, the National Domestic Hotline for help. Don't hesitate to reach out and share that love, because the more that we pull this out into the light, the less we have to have people suffering in the dark. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. Thank you, Andre Davis, for sharing the win, sharing the enthusiasm, the tenacity.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it to you extending your platform out so that I could share this story for people, because it is very important. And to give people, so people of color can see that we are so amazing, and when we come together we can accomplish some amazing things. Because even if you watched the Emmys last night, and I know I'm just throwing this out there, no one Black really won an Emmy for acting or anything. So for us to come together and do this, it was a milestone and it was history, and I'm still in shock about it. But me and my team, we're gonna stick together, and we're gonna keep laying the groundwork and keep laying the foundation so that everybody and anybody who wants to do something that's as amazing as they are, they can do it.
Absolutely. What great words to end on. Thank you again. Thanks to Chris Bridges for helping pull us together. Thank you.
Shout out to Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Exactly. Thanks to your doctor, all your team members, and everybody that worked so hard to pull us through. Please watch Girl in Apartment 15. It is a moving work. It's timely. It's a story that we really need to feel comfortable being able to understand and also recognize. So thanks for the work that you all have done and continue to do. And we look forward to hearing great things years to come.
Thank you. Yes.
Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis.